The old campsite was abandoned for a reason. I'll never go camping again. I don't care if it's with 10 people or 50. I'm done with the woods. I don't care how many stars are in the sky or how clean the air smells. None of that matters when you're sitting in a zipped-up bag of nylon and something, is outside, watching you breathe. This happened last fall, end of October. Me and my buddy James decided to do one last backcountry weekend before it got too cold. We picked a spot up in the North Cascades. Not one of the official campsites, just an old clearing he found on Reddit, probably posted by some ultralight hiker dude who wanted to flex. It was supposed to be remote but beautiful. A little off-grid, James said. Quiet, isolated. We'll have the whole trail to ourselves. Yeah, we did. That was the fucking problem. We parked James' Subaru off a logging road way up this sketchy gravel pass. Zero signal. I even checked the bar for SOS reception. Nothing. Which honestly, at the time, felt kind of nice. No distractions, no work stuff. Just nature. Just peace. We hiked in maybe 6 miles. Dense forest, rocky climbs, a couple sketchy switchbacks. I remember we passed this busted old hunting shack about halfway in. Just a rotted out structure with a half-collapsed roof. James joked that some guy probably died in there, which was funny in that moment, the kind of stupid, morbid thing you laugh about when you're not thinking anything real could happen. The weirdness didn't start until after sunset. We had our camp set up in this narrow clearing surrounded by tall pines. It felt boxed in. I didn't like it much, but it was flat, and we were losing light. I cooked on the jet boil, some dehydrated chicken and rice, nothing special. James cracked open a couple beers from the cooler, and we sat by our little fire, talking about dumb shit. The air had that sharp, late fall chill, but we were layered up. Everything felt normal, until it didn't. Around 10:30 we heard branches snapping. Not animal sounds, these were deliberate, like footsteps, slow ones, heavy, crunch, pause, crunch. James killed the lantern and we just sat there in the dark. Both of us wide-eyed, not saying a word. Probably a deer, he whispered, but his voice was tight. I wanted to believe that, I really did. But it didn't sound like a deer. It sounded like someone pacing in a half circle around our tent. Never coming too close. Just watching. It stopped eventually. We waited another half hour before crawling into the tent. I didn't sleep, not even a minute. Every gust of wind, every rustle of the trees, I thought someone was out there, waiting, and I was right. We woke up the next morning to find shoe prints around the tent, actual boot prints. They circled us twice, then veered off into the woods. Deep treads, maybe a men's 11 or 12, way bigger than mine. James tried to brush it off like it was probably just some hiker who got lost and stumbled into our camp. But who walks in circles around a tent in the middle of the night and doesn't say anything? There were no other tents, no campfires, no voices. We hadn't seen another person since we left the car. I was ready to pack up and leave right then, but James insisted we stick it out. One more night, he said. We probably scared the guy off. We'll keep the hatchet close. Worst case, we confront him. That was a mistake. I spent the whole day with this pit in my stomach. You know that sick, crawling feeling when you just know you're not alone? I kept looking over my shoulder. Every branch snapping made me flinch. We even found something else that afternoon. One of our water bottles had been moved. Not far, just a couple feet from where we left it. But it was standing upright in the center of the trail, like someone placed it there. That night, we didn't bother with a fire. We didn't talk, just sat in the tent, knives next to our sleeping bags, listening. And that's when the laughing started. It came from the woods, far away at first, then closer. Slow, wheezy laughter, like someone who'd smoked for 40 years and thought something was hilarious. It wasn't a normal laugh. It sounded wrong, like a voice trying to imitate one, deliberate, taunting. I whispered to James, "What the fuck is that?" He didn't answer. He just held the hatchet tighter. The laughter stopped. Then, and I swear I'm not making this up, we heard whispering, clear as day, just outside the tent. "You awake in there?" That voice, low, male, dry and hoarse like it hadn't spoken in years. Neither of us moved. More whispering. "I saw your fire. You're not good at hiding." James unzipped the tent so fast I thought he was going to lunge out and fight. But the moment he did, we realized no one was there. Flashlights up, nothing, no movement, no footprints. But we were being hunted. We didn't sleep that night either. And when the sun came up, we realized there was something carved into the trunk of the pine tree next to us. Just 4 words. Stay one more night. I stood there just staring at that tree for maybe a full minute. Not breathing, not blinking. My brain refused to accept what I was looking at. Stay one more night. 4 words. Carved deep. Fresh. You could still see the pale, raw wood underneath like someone had done it that night. Maybe while we were inside the tent. Maybe while we were sleeping. James didn't say anything right away. Just crouched down near the base of the tree, running his fingers over the grooves like touching it would make it make sense. His face was pale. I think he was trying not to freak me out, but I could see his jaw clenching and unclenching. "Dude," I said, my voice cracking like I hadn't used it in days. "We have to leave. Now." James nodded slowly, but he was in that kind of shock mode where your body moves before your brain catches up. He grabbed his pack, stuffed everything into it like it was on fire. I didn't even bother folding the tent, just crammed it in, left the stakes behind. The entire site looked like something out of a horror movie by the time we were done. Fire pit still smouldering, one camp chair tipped over, trash bag half full. We didn't talk for the first half hour of hiking, just pushed forward fast as hell through that winding trail, ears tuned to every twig snap and birdsong. There was noise in the woods. I remember that specifically. But it was wrong, like the birds would start chirping, then stop all at once. Sudden silence, like everything knew something wasn't right, like even nature didn't want to call attention to us. About 2 miles in, James stopped and put his hand up. I froze, mid-step. There, on the edge of the trail, about 30 feet ahead, was a person, just standing there. No gear, no pack, no jacket, wearing what looked like a faded red flannel, sleeves rolled to the elbows, jeans soaked up to the knees with mud. He was tall, probably over 6 foot, just standing sideways to us like he hadn't made up his mind whether to block our path or not. I couldn't see his face clearly at first, but I didn't need to. My whole body screamed, "Don't get closer." James whispered, "Hey." "You okay, man?" The guy didn't move, didn't turn his head. He just slowly, so fucking slowly, took one step back into the trees, never broke eye contact. Then he smiled. It was the kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes, just a slow, twitchy baring of teeth, like he was savoring something, like he knew we couldn't run fast enough. James grabbed my arm. "Backtrack, now." We turned around fast, and I don't mean a calm, measured retreat. We ran. Packs bouncing, branches slapping us. One of my water bottles flew off, and I didn't stop to get it. We didn't say a word until we made it back to that old collapsed hunting shack we passed on the first day. That's when we realized the trail markers were gone. Like, not just missing, removed. You know how some backcountry trails use those colored ribbons tied to branches or carved marks on trees? Gone. Every last one. There should have been 3 red ribbons along that ridge line. Instead, there was just bark, freshly scraped clean. James dropped his pack and started cursing under his breath. I could see him shaking, trying to check GPS, but of course, no service. The map on his All Trails app wasn't loading, just that stupid spinning wheel. "What the fuck is happening?" he muttered. I started thinking maybe we were lost, maybe we were walking in circles, but the terrain felt familiar. I knew we were going the right direction, so how the hell were we back at that shack? We went inside just to regroup. Big mistake. The interior was pitch dark even during the day. Rotting floorboards, old mattress in the corner with some kind of animal nest in it. Walls covered in rusted nails and peeling paint. And on the back wall, written in what looked like ash or maybe charcoal, "I follow the lost." I didn't even tell James. I just backed out and started walking. Fast. Couldn't look at that message any longer without thinking about that smile, that red flannel, that night. We walked another 2 miles, no water, no trail signs, no nothing, just endless pines and switchbacks. Then we found something worse than the carving. It was a sock, laying right in the middle of the trail, dirty, torn. One of those cheap white Costco ones, but it looked recent, not weathered or sun-bleached. James looked at me and said, "That's not yours, right?" "No." He didn't answer after that, just picked up the pace. We started hearing voices again after that. Not the whispering kind this time, more like people talking a few 100 feet away. Laughing, coughing, then stopping all at once. I remember stopping to listen, and James said, "Don't. It's a trap." And that's when I knew. He was thinking the same thing I was. This wasn't just some weirdo playing games, this was planned. Someone, or some people, were out there, living in those woods, hunting hikers, maybe for sport, maybe for fun. And they were really good at it. The worst part, when we finally saw the Subaru again, parked right where we left it, at the edge of the tree line, there was something sticking out of the driver's side window, a Polaroid. I took it, and I still have it. It's a photo of me and James, sitting at our campfire, the first night, taken from maybe 20 feet away. The firelight lit our faces just enough. James was mid-laugh. I was staring into the pot, stirring food. We never took that picture. Someone else did. I didn't say anything at first, just stared at the Polaroid, holding it with 2 fingers like it was covered in something toxic. It didn't make sense. My hands were shaking. I kept flipping it over and over like maybe there'd be a note written on the back. A date. A name. Anything. But there was nothing. Just the photo. That little square of frozen time. And the sick fact that someone had stood there, close enough to touch us, and taken it without us ever noticing. James leaned over, squinted and said, "What the fuck is that?" I didn't answer, just handed it to him slowly. He didn't laugh, didn't even blink. He just looked at it like it was a death certificate. We didn't... His voice trailed off. He folded it in half and stuffed it into his jacket pocket, like it burned to look at. That's when I noticed the Subaru. The doors were unlocked. We always lock the car. Always. Especially way the hell out in the mountains where some meth head could be lurking around. But when I yanked the passenger side, it popped right open like we'd left it that way. Inside looked mostly normal. My empty coffee cup was still in the holder. James's Costco trail mix bag on the seat. Except the glove box was wide open. Inside it, someone had left a single old-school hotel key, like the kind with the big brass number tag attached. It said, Room 6, Pine Creek Motor Lodge. I looked at James. He looked at me. Neither of us said a word for a few seconds. Then James said what I was already thinking. We never stayed there. He picked it up, turned it over. No address, no contact, just that number. Room 6. We were losing it. I mean that in the literal psychological sense. My mouth was dry, my stomach was doing flips. The rational part of me was trying to say, okay, this is a prank, this is just someone fucking with us. But deep down I knew this was personal. Someone had chosen us. We got in the car and tore the hell out of there. James drove like he was being chased, doing 50 on a road meant for 25, fishtailing on loose gravel. Neither of us said a word until we got to the main highway. The signal came back in a flash, and I turned my phone on immediately, just desperate for some normality. I had 5 bars. Full LTE. I typed Pine Creek Motor Lodge into Google Maps. One result popped up. Not in Washington. In fucking Montana. Some run-down, off-the-map motel near Flathead Forest. No reviews, no website. Just one blurry street view image that looked like it was from 2007. A crooked neon sign, weeds growing through the parking lot. A building that looked more abandoned than anything. I showed it to James. He just muttered, "What the hell is happening?" We didn't go there, obviously. We drove straight back to Seattle. Got home just after dark, and I remember how wrong my apartment felt when I walked in. Like I didn't belong there anymore. Like whatever happened out there had followed me back. I threw my pack in the closet and didn't unpack it for 3 days. That night I didn't sleep. Every sound made me flinch. The neighbors upstairs walking. I thought it was someone breaking in. The heater kicking on. My brain said footsteps. I was spiraling. So around 3 a.m, I got out of bed, went to the kitchen, and pulled the Polaroid back out of the drawer where I'd shoved it. And something hit me. Something off. In the photo, the one of me and James sitting by the fire, there's a third shape, barely visible, behind a tree, in the shadows, just at the edge of the frame, almost out of sight. A figure, slouched, tall, watching. I dropped it, backed away like it was going to move. My heart felt like it stopped for a second, because that thing behind the tree, it wasn't just a shadow. It had a face, a smile, same one we saw on the trail, same twisted, thin grin, like it never left. The next day I tried to get on with life, work, groceries, pretending things were normal. James wasn't answering my texts though, not even my calls. 3 days. Nothing. I started to get worried, drove to his apartment on Capitol Hill, buzzed his unit. No response. I could see his car out front, but the windows were dark and the blinds were drawn. I knocked. Nothing. Just as I was about to leave, I noticed something on the door, taped there. Another Polaroid. This one was different. It was a picture of me, standing outside James's apartment, taken from behind. I spun around, heart racing, looked in every direction. No one. Not a single person on the street. I tore the photo off the door and bolted back to my car. Slammed the door, locked it, sat there with my hands gripping the wheel until the panic passed. I tried calling James again, straight to voicemail. That night, I couldn't take it anymore. I called the cops. I told them I hadn't heard from my friend in 4 days, that he might be missing, that we had some weird experience while hiking. I didn't give details. I mean, what was I supposed to say? Hey, we were hunted by a psycho mountain man, and now someone's leaving Polaroids of me at my friend's house. They agreed to do a wellness check, but by the time they got there, James was gone. Apartment locked from the inside. Nothing stolen, just gone. The weirdest part, they found a note on his kitchen table, scrawled in Sharpie on the back of a gas station receipt. He followed us back. That was 2 weeks ago. And last night, I got another photo slid under my door sometime while I was sleeping. It's a Polaroid of me in bed, taken from inside my room. I don't know what to do anymore. I don't know who he is, or how many there are, or what they want. But I know this. We shouldn't have gone to that campsite. And we sure as hell should have left after the first night. But we didn't. I didn't scream when I found the photo. I just sat there, staring at it under the kitchen light, mouth dry, ears ringing, hands refusing to stop shaking. My knees buckled and I slid down to the floor with it clenched in my fist. That slick white border starting to warp from the sweat on my fingers. There I was, lying in bed, blanket half off, mouth slightly open, just like how I'd fallen asleep. The photo was taken from my bedroom doorway, not the window, not a long lens, right from inside, close. He'd been in my apartment. I live on the 3rd floor, gated building, locked hallway. You need a fob to get in. There's no way he should have been able to enter, unless he'd followed me inside. One of those nights when I got home late and didn't check the hallway. Or maybe he already was inside. I don't know. I don't know anything anymore. I tore my place apart after that. Checked closets, under the bed, behind the shower curtain, opened every drawer like something might crawl out. I unplugged the microwave because I couldn't stand the red glow of the clock. I pushed the couch in front of the front door and sat up all night with the lights on and a kitchen knife in my hand. And still, I felt watched. I kept replaying the hike in my head, trying to pinpoint the moment when we lost control, when something changed. The night we heard the laughter, the whispering, the footprints. No, It was before that. I think now it was when we passed the shack. That place felt wrong, like it wasn't just some abandoned shelter. It was a marker, a line, and we crossed it. The next morning, I drove out to the police station. Not to report a crime, I knew how that would go. Someone's leaving photos of me inside my apartment would get me 2 questions and a wellness check. But I thought maybe they'd heard something. Another missing hiker. Weird reports in the Cascades. Anything to back me up. But when I asked to speak to someone about James's case, the desk cop just stared at me and said, "There's no open case under that name." I said, "James Coulter. I called 4 days ago. You guys did a wellness check." He looked again, tapped a few keys, shook his head. "Sorry, nothing's coming up." "Are you sure that's the name?" I stood there, frozen. "Yes, I was here. You sent someone." He just stared at me, polite and blank. "We don't have any record of that. You can file a report if he's still missing." I left without saying another word. Got in my car and sat in the parking lot for 20 minutes, heart pounding so loud I couldn't think. I opened my phone, typed James's number into Google. Nothing. No Facebook, no LinkedIn, no Instagram, not even old tagged photos. It was like he never existed. I texted another friend, Taylor, someone we both knew. Just sent, "Hey, you heard from James lately?" The reply came a few minutes later. "Who?" That's when I finally cracked. I went back to my apartment, stripped off my hoodie and turned every light on in the place. Then I pulled the Polaroids out of the drawer and laid them on the counter, side by side. The campfire. Me outside James's building. Me asleep. The third one still smelled faintly of dust, like it had come from a basement or a dark room. I stared at the background in the campfire photo, trying to make out the thing behind the tree, the figure. And for a second, just a second, I had this memory, or maybe it was a hallucination, of that same face, that twisted grin, leaning closer to me in the dark. Something wet dripping on my neck, breathing, inches away. I jumped back from the counter and knocked over the stool, told myself I was sleep deprived, paranoid, delusional, but I wasn't, because I found something else that night. The back of the campfire photo. I hadn't looked at it in a while. When I flipped it over again, there was something new. I'm telling you, it wasn't there before. It was written in what looked like pencil, smeared and faint, but legible. Room 6 is ready. I dropped it. No. This is when any sane person would leave the city, go to a friend's, call a priest, I don't know. But instead, I made the worst decision I've ever made. I looked up Pine Creek Motor Lodge again. It was still listed on Google Maps. Just one photo, no directions, no website. But this time there was a new review, posted yesterday, no stars. He waits there now. That's all it said. I didn't tell anyone I was going. I couldn't. Who would believe me? I just packed a duffel, flashlight, 2 knives, a crowbar, water, and all 3 Polaroids. I filled up the tank and drove 10 hours straight through Washington into Montana. My hands cramped from gripping the wheel. The radio stayed off. When I got close to the coordinates, the paved road gave out. I was on gravel again, just like before. I didn't see a single car for miles. The sign for the motel came into view just after sunset. Pine Creek Motor Lodge, rusted iron letters hanging at an angle, like the wind had tried to rip them off years ago. The building looked abandoned, grey, rotted siding, moss on the roof, no lights. But there were cars in the lot, 4 of them, all parked neatly in a row, covered in dust, flat tires. One still had Idaho plates that expired in 2016, and every single one had something in the passenger seat, a Polaroid. I didn't go to the front desk. I went straight to room 6. Door was unlocked. I opened it. The room was empty. No furniture, no bed, no sink. Just a wooden floor, cracked walls, and a camera. One of those old instant film cameras sitting on a crate in the middle of the floor, pointed directly at the door. Behind it, on the wall, hundreds of photos, taped, layered, peeling from humidity, all of people sleeping, some in tents, some in cabins, some in cars, and in every single photo, somewhere in the background, sometimes barely visible, was him. That same slouched figure, always watching, sometimes smiling, sometimes not. And at the bottom, scrawled across the wall in charcoal or dirt or blood, I don't know, were the words, "They always come back." I turned and ran. I didn't stop to catch my breath until I was back in the car, halfway down the gravel road, tires bouncing over potholes, screaming without realizing it. I don't remember the rest of the drive. I just remember waking up the next morning in my apartment, door locked, blinds shut. The Polaroids were gone, every single one. But in their place, laid out neatly on the kitchen counter, was a new one. A photo of James, standing in room 6, smiling. I didn't touch it, I didn't even breathe near it. The photo of James, placed so perfectly in the middle of the counter, was too clean, too crisp, like it hadn't just appeared out of nowhere, like it belonged there, like someone had been in my apartment again and wanted me to know it. He was smiling in the picture, but it wasn't his real smile, not the crooked, snarky one he used when he was drunk, or the quiet smirk he'd make when he beat me at cards. This smile was tight, pulled, strained across his face like it had been put there by someone else. His eyes were too wide, blank. Behind him I could see the wall of room 6, same rotting drywall, same warped wood floor, but it wasn't just him in the room. There was something in the corner, in the dark. A slouched figure, arms long, head slightly tilted, knees bent outward like a puppet mid-collapse. He wasn't looking at James in the photo, he was looking at the camera, at me. I backed away. My stomach turned. I swear, for a moment I thought I was going to pass out. I turned and vomited in the sink, the water running so hard I didn't even hear myself retch. All I kept thinking was, he didn't escape. He never left that place. And whatever that thing was, whoever he was, he had James now. And maybe James was still alive in some way, but not free, not himself anymore. I tried to get help. I swear to God I tried. I called the police again, this time from a burner I picked up at a gas station. Told them about the motel, the wall of photos, the figure. Didn't give my name. I just said there were missing people being kept there. Maybe dead, maybe not. The dispatcher said they'd send someone to check it out. I knew the tone. Brushed off, forgotten. So I emailed the pictures to 3 different independent blogs that write about weird missing persons cases. No response. I even tried reaching out to one of those YouTube channels that cover strange disappearances in national parks. Nothing. It's like I was shouting into a void. But then I got an email back. Just one sentence. From an address that looked like complete nonsense. No clues left, 73, protonmail.com. You saw him, didn't you? No greeting, no sign-off, no signature. Just that. I wrote back. Who is he? No reply. That night I stayed awake until 5 a.m, watching the hallway through my peephole like my life depended on it. I'd wedged a chair under the doorknob, jammed a rubber doorstop into place, and left every light in the apartment on. But sometime after I finally passed out, I had the worst dream of my life. It felt so real. I was back in room 6. Only it was different now. Bigger, endless. The walls stretched up into black nothingness, the corners too far away to see. I couldn't move. My arms and legs were pinned by something cold, wet. All around me the photos were moving. The ones on the walls, they twitched, shifted. The people in them started turning their heads, looking at me, and I saw James. He wasn't in the photo anymore. He was in the room, standing across from me, wearing the same clothes from the hike, his skin pale and wrong and waxy like it had been peeled off and put back on. He smiled, and behind him, from the shadows, the slouched man stepped forward. He moved wrong, too fluid, like his joints didn't follow the rules. Long arms swinging loosely at his sides, head tilted as if curious. I couldn't see his face fully, only hints of a nose, the curve of a cheek, but I felt it. That grin. The one burned into my brain, the one that always seemed to be too close. He leaned in near my face and whispered, "One more night." I woke up choking. My throat was bone dry, my skin clammy. I swore I felt breath on my neck for a second after my eyes opened. I stumbled into the bathroom to splash water on my face and stopped cold. The mirror was fogged, and in the fog, smeared with a single finger, was the number 6. I didn't shower, didn't eat. I just packed again. This time I brought more than knives. I brought a flare gun, a baseball bat, a pry bar, zip ties, 2 flashlights, 3 disposable phones, and the fucking camera from my apartment, because it had been left on my nightstand when I woke up, and it wasn't mine. I was done running. I had to know what room 6 really was, what he was, why James was still showing up, why they always come back. This time, when I got to the motel, it was daylight. The cars were still there, still rotting, still untouched. But now there were more photos. Someone had started lining the outside of the building with them, taped to windows, nailed to the siding, and all of them were of me. Some from the hike, some from Seattle. One of me standing in line at a grocery store looking at my phone. Another of me in my bed, taken from a different angle than the last. Someone had been following me for weeks. Someone had always been watching. I walked into room 6 again. This time I didn't flinch. There was only one photo on the wall now. One, fresh, still drying. It was blank, white, except for one sentence typed on the bottom like a label. "Now it's your turn." And next to it was another Polaroid camera, a new one, sitting there, waiting for me to pick it up. And the worst part, I think I did. I don't remember lifting the camera. I just remember the weight of it in my hands. Heavy, cold, like it hadn't been touched in a long time, or maybe like it had been used far too much. The plastic was scratched, the strap frayed, but it worked. A faint whine buzzed to life when I pressed the shutter halfway down. It was loaded. One photo left. One. And in that moment, standing in the middle of room 6, surrounded by rot and mold and things I can't describe, I realized what this was. This wasn't a trap. It was a cycle. He wasn't hunting me anymore. He was replacing me. I'd seen the photos, seen the motel expand, the walls stretch, the shadows reach. I'd seen James in there, smiling because he had no choice. I'd seen the look in his eyes, vacant, cold, resigned, like he'd been dragged across some invisible line and forced into whatever role the last guy gave up. And now, it was my turn, unless I broke it, unless I ended it. I snapped the photo, pointed the camera at the wall, just above where the last photo had been. I pressed the shutter and yanked the film out before it even finished developing. White, still blank. And then, suddenly, a face started to appear. Not mine, not James's, his. That same grinning face, too wide, too wrong. That hunched shape, those dead, glassy eyes, as if staring from inside the camera itself, like he'd been waiting for this moment, like this was his doorway out. I dropped the camera. It hit the floor and snapped in half. Something changed in the room. The air thinned. The silence deepened. I could feel a pressure building in my ears like I was sinking underwater. And then, footsteps. Behind me, slow, deliberate. One step, then two, creaking on the rotted wood. I turned. Nothing there, just the door, wide open now. The hallway beyond it was longer than it should have been, way longer, and lined with rooms that hadn't been there before. Each door had a number, room 5, room 4, room 3, all the way down to room 1. And something was waiting at the end. I couldn't see it, but I felt it. That watching, that grin. And I understood something I wish I hadn't. Room 6 isn't a room, it's a threshold, a position in some sick ritual, one that always needs a host. I ran, out the door, past the rotted cars, into the woods behind the motel, didn't stop until my lungs screamed, until my vision blurred. I don't know how long I was out there, hours, maybe. But when I finally made it back to the highway, the lodge was gone. I'm not kidding. I turned around panting, bleeding, bruised, and the Pine Creek Motor Lodge wasn't there anymore. No rusted sign, no gravel drive, just trees, a wide, empty stretch of pine and moss, like it had never existed. That was 6 days ago. Since then, things haven't gone back to normal. At night, I hear footsteps in my hallway. Not above me, not below, in my hallway. Sometimes I wake up and my door is unlocked. I lock it, triple check it, wedge it shut with furniture. And in the morning, it's always open, just a crack. I started checking my phone photos, the ones I take around the city or of friends or just random shits, and sometimes there's something in the background, a blur, a shadow, a man, leaning from behind a tree or standing in a doorway or reflected in glass. And he's always grinning. I haven't slept properly since I left that place. Sometimes I wake up and there's a click in the dark. The sound of a camera shutter. Just once. Always once. I'll jump out of bed and look around. No one. Nothing. But I know. He's not done with me. Because last night I got mail. No stamp. No return address. Just an envelope slid under my door. Inside was a Polaroid. It was blank at first, white, but I could feel it developing. I stared, waiting for the image to come in, and slowly I saw myself, lying on my bed, eyes open, looking straight at the camera, and next to me, right next to me, he's standing there, bent over, grinning. So I'm writing this now, not as a warning, but as a record. Because if you ever see a place called Pine Creek Motor Lodge, if you ever find room 6, don't go inside. Don't pick up the camera. Don't take the photo, don't look at the walls, because once you see him, he sees you too. And sooner or later, he'll want you to smile.